Here I am again, still in the Florida Keys, still without my usual samples, but I'm still going to continue doing my videos, because that's just how it goes. So, this video is basically about the difference between fragrance oils versus sprays. So, I've tried both, I've experimented with both. There's, at its foundation, there's not a massive difference between fragrance oils and sprays. Primarily, the difference is how you're going to apply these things. Fragrance oils usually come in roll-on applications, just for ease. Meanwhile, sprays are obviously sprays. But is one better than the other? Not necessarily. It mainly depends on what you want from your fragrance. So, fragrance oils can, not always, but they can be stronger than some sprays, mainly just because of their concentration. Their concentration is usually much higher compared to sprays, which are typically diluted with alcohol and water and some other ingredients. But as fragrance oils alone, since they're so concentrated, you only need to put a few dabs to get the desired result. That can be useful depending on how you want to smell, because fragrance oils tend to be more, you're not going to get your typical designer brands usually in the form of fragrance oils. Usually those are more niche brands, at least from what I've experienced, they're usually more niche. Versus sprays, which obviously, you can get Versace, Chanel, whatever you want with the fragrance sprays. So, again, it really depends on what you want, because they're both good. They're both good, and I would say on average that perfume oils last maybe a little bit longer, but again, not always. It depends on what kind of notes you're dealing with, how you apply the fragrance, the quality of the fragrance. So lots of these different qualities and things to consider when buying a fragrance. So again, one is not necessarily better than the other, but like for me, I personally prefer sprays just because I suppose the one downside of fragrance oils is that they're oily, because sometimes I put them on, maybe I put on a little bit too much, and then my skin is just oily for a very long time, noticeably oily. So that's not something I'm a big fan of, but the smell is still nice. It's just sprays, they're more even when they come out of the bottle. They don't leave an oily residue behind, and that sort of thing. Also, I tend to find that sprays tend to have more layers, usually, in terms of how they smell compared to fragrance oils. Because fragrance oils, at least in my experience, they tend to be more of a pure compound. They consist of 1 or 2, maybe 3 notes, but they're more simplistic and just stronger compared to sprays, which are on average maybe a little less strong than oils, but they have more complexity. They have the layers, the top notes, the middle notes, the base notes. So they have just more kind of character, I would say. But again, not always. These are just kind of generalizations that I've often come across. So again, it's really down to personal preference. I always recommend trying both options to see which one is the best for what you're looking for. I have both in my collection, so it's just fun to kind of experiment, or wear some one day, then another day, just depending on how you're feeling, what you want. But again, both fragrance oils and sprays are pretty comparable overall. It's just these little details, these little pros and cons that make a little bit of a difference. But again, try both, see which ones you like better, and all of that. But that's pretty much what I have to say about that. This is a shorter video, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.